Moors Talk with your hostess, Prime Minister Durriyyah Bey. Hey. Yeah, no, 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 no. Yeah, no, 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 no. Shadow hour. 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 You are now tuned into real Moors Talk. Melanated glow, crown back on the throne. Asiatic spirit, yes, we finally home. On a noble Drew Ali, we proclaim. Nationality restored, we reclaim the name. Yeah, yeah. Love, truth, peace, let us spark that fire.
Freedom, justice,
lifting hearts higher.
No more strangers,
we know our part.
Real Moors Talk,
truth from the heart.
Real Moors Talk,
truth from the heart.
Real Moors Talk,
that's right.
Yeah, na, 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 na.
Shadow hour.
Yeah, na, 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 na.
Shadow hour.
Yeah, na, 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 na.
Shadow hour.
Yeah, na, 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 na.
That's right. Rise up, rise up, rise up, that's it, rise up.
This is heritage,
that's it, rise up.
This is consciousness,
that's it, rise up.
That's your heritage,
that's it, rise up.
Mela haven't been,
that's it, rise up. This is heritage, this is consciousness with your hostess, Prime Minister Durriyyah Bey.
I don't know what to say. Huh? Yes, I need that. I need that too. All right, all right, all right. All right, all right. Let's see if I can try to get me up here a little bit bigger on my screen. All right. Everybody, welcome to Real Moorish Talk. I'm clicking the show on this stage. There we are. Welcome to Real Moorish Talk. I do apologize. I hit the wrong button. You can tell when my producer is not here. But welcome everyone to Real Moorish Talk. I am your hostess, Prime Minister National Grand Sheikh Durriyyah Bey, and you're on Shadow Hour. And always, first, we have a really packed show for you all tonight. So, first and always, I want to rise and give praises to the Creator, whom I choose to call Allah, for allowing me to wake up this rising in my right frame of mind, with my good common sense, life, health, and consciousness, with the ability to stay on this road, the Islamic road, the conscious road, the nationally conscious road, the straight road, because sometimes it's rough and sometimes it's smooth. So I just want to thank all of you all who are here tonight and keeping our numbers up. You're making sure that we're hitting our numbers. And I really, really do appreciate that so much, with you all coming every single week to hear what we have to say. All right. And before I actually get started, I wanted to go over just a few things that we do want to make sure we get in every single week. And that is our online schooling for Moorish children. So we have a few things, and what we've done is given you a few ways to be able to donate to online schooling for Moorish children. I believe the school starts Monday, September 7th. And we're in our 11th year, and we want to make sure that everyone who would love to send their children it's possible for them to go. So we try to keep our prices at a really decent price in order to do that. But we also need to have instructors and students. So we're looking for instructors, people who are serious about teaching at online schooling for more children, who are really serious about what we do here. We're looking for those people, and we're looking for parents to enroll their students. Our school is designed for Asiatics of Moorish descent. That's what we're designed for. We're not trying to teach any other nationality of people. We're just trying to take care of our own. So here at Online Schooling for Moorish Children, we take care of that. And this is our school fundraiser QR code. I know a lot of you are used to GoFundMe, but we have what we call is Rally Up, and we're trying to rally up. And so that's what we're using, is Rally Up for our school fundraiser. So you can click that QRS code and go straight there and donate to our school. We really appreciate everyone who has been purchasing books from us, because you can go to the donate button and also purchase. You can donate through the donate button. Those should be in the link in the description. But you also can go to Moorish Science with GSKS DurriyyahBey.com and donate there. We got so many ways for you to donate. For people who do not have PayPal and things like that, and they want to be able to donate, we have different options for you. Always purchasing our books at circle7publishing.com. And I have my book on Marcus Garvey. I did write a book on Marcus Garvey. And so that's also in a subscription. So I don't have it sitting right here in front of me. I got to get my producer to give it to me when he steps back in the office. But we do have a book on Marcus Garvey. And so it's really a good book, because I'm talking about Marcus Garvey from the time of his birth until his transition, and him coming from Jamaica to here to bring his issues that he could not push in Jamaica over here in these shores. So please continue to donate, and purchase. If you feel like that you got to have something for your donation, you feel like I'm not going to donate because I can't see where the fiat goes, then you most certainly can purchase a book. And right now, for the whole month of August, these books are still $10. Now, a lot of the older books are $10 and the newer books are $20. But for the month of August, every time we introduce you to one of our books, our newer books, we're introducing you to those books, and we're giving them for $10. And then after the month of August, they'll go back to $20 because those are our newer books that we are doing. And everything we do is for the uplifting of fallen humanity. You can also go to the Doors of Drew Ali. It's our humanitarian organization, and also donate to the Doors of Drew Ali. You can do that as well. All right. All right, everyone. So trustfully, I've covered. Oh, no, I got one more thing that I need to cover. A couple more things I need to cover. So here is our school. As you can see, as it scrolls up and down, this is our rally that I was talking to you all about. And with this, it is showing you how you can donate to the school through Rally. And so that's what that is telling you everything about our donations, about our school through Rally. So we really want you to continue to support us. And we also have right now we're having our Ancient Forefathers Day. And with the Ancient Forefathers Day, right now, we are having that where you can actually come. So it doesn't have any interest fee to get to the Ancient Forefathers Day. It's no interest fee to get into there. So you just have to be there, show up and be there. I wanted to clear the screen just a little bit so you could actually see it as well for the Ancient Forefathers Day. See if I can pull it up side by side. Well, when the producer gets there, it is. So the Ancient Forefathers Day, right there, you can actually see the flyer. So it's temple number 13 and temple number 13, I guess, and 13 too, that they're having that together on August the 29th from 1 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at Wilburn H. Waters Park. And we're going to be streaming live from there. I'm so excited that we will be streaming live from there. This is our very first live stream during the outside event. And so I am just like over the moon with that. Over the moon with that. Not sure why this came back over the moon with that. Over the moon with that. So we're looking forward to having that. Not sure what I'm shouldn't be doing anything that's wrong at this point. But anyway, always some technical errors. But anyway, so that's what we'll be doing. Okay. All right. So let me get right to me back on the stage. Again, put me back on the stage. There we go. All right. All right. So just a few difficulties, as you can see, I'm having when my producer is not right here with me in the office. All right. So let's get started. So I wanted to introduce, a lot of you all know about Marcus Garvey. A lot of you know about Marcus Garvey, and we know all about Marcus Garvey and the red, black, and green and the Negro Improvement Movement and things like that. We all about Marcus Garvey as far as that is concerned. But what people really don't know is that some of the questions that I had about Marcus Garvey, with no disrespect to Marcus Garvey, was that when he came from Jamaica, he came from an area where the people had nationality. They were not Negro, black, colored, or anything there. They had a nationality where Marcus Garvey was from. And so when he was in his country and he was trying to push the narrative of the information that he was trying to push, the people did not accept it. So I'm going to read you some of the things that I have, and some are from my book. And I'm going to put my glasses on. And I'm just going to go over some of the information about Marcus Garvey, because one of the things is my biggest issue was Marcus Garvey came with Negroism. He did not come with nationality and birthrights. And this is why Prophet Noble Drawley told us that he was a forerunner, because he came to stir up the people and get them to meet the coming prophet. This is why Prophet Noble Drawley told us that he was a forerunner for him, because he had to come behind him and teach us that we were not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopian. So today you're going to hear some things that you may agree with or disagree with on what I'm saying about Marcus Garvey. But this is all information. It's historical information. It's historical events. It's information that you can look it up for yourself. But we're going to commemorate his birth because we know that the 17th is Marcus Garvey's born day, the day he was born. And so for me, I wanted to do it a little ahead of time because the next, show we're going to be doing would have been after his born day. And so I wanted to talk about that. All right. And so we know that Marcus Garvey was born August the 17th in 1887. And he was born in St. Ann Bay, Jamaica. Okay. So this is a celebration, but it's not an empty celebration. We respect Marcus Garvey enough to study him completely. We honor his courage, his vision, his organizational genius, and the pride that his movement restored across the despair. We also examined the question that his history places before us about race, nationality, birthrights, and the difference between improving and imposed classification and restoring a historical name. All right. Marcus Garvey was born in Jamaica. Okay. And he knew the island of his birth. He knew his parents, his community, and the land from which he came from. Jamaica was under British colony rulership. So, and Jamaica was, under British colony. And so most of them, they were enslaved just like we were over here. Okay, because, a lot of this, like some people were under French rulership, British rulership, depending on which part of those European territories had you under their thumb. All right. And so British subject and colony of Jamaica, subject was not freedom, but he was not born without a knowledge of territorial origins. Years later, he came to the United States and encountered millions of people whose names, languages, ancestral connections, and national consciousness have been violently disrupted here in America. Institutions did not call them by their names of nations. They called them Negroes, colored folks, Black people, Ethiopians, etc. Garvey took that word and organized beneath it and attempted to turn an imposed category into a worldwide political force. Prophet Noble Drew Ali took another approach. He taught that Negroes was not national. He taught Negroes was not nationally, the words that we would want to use for our people, right? This is what Prophet Noble Drew Ali taught us, that's not what we would want to teach the Negroes. We wouldn't want to teach that. All right. And so he made sure that we knew who we were. Okay, and that's one of the differences in the teachings between Prophet Noble Drew Ali and Marcus Garvey. Noble Drew Ali also made sure that we knew about our nationality and birthrights and said that he was going to teach us those things necessary to make us better citizens. All right, and those are the things that Prophet Noble Drew Ali said he was going to teach us, those things that were necessary to make us better citizens. All right, and so that's the difference of what he did and the difference of what Marcus Garvey actually came here to teach. All right. All right. So I want to talk about that. And I have information that I want to share with you all the way up until when Marcus Garvey and Prophet Noble Drew Ali actually met. A lot of people say, oh, they never met. Prophet Noble Drew Ali did not meet Marcus Garvey because of the time frame, but it's not so. Historically, it proves that meeting could have taken place, and the postcard is an indication of the meeting actually taking place. So Prophet Noble Drew Ali, even there's a picture of Marcus Garvey, and they say the man sitting beside him in that carriage is Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I'm not sure if it is or not. I have no historical proof that it is him. I actually have seen, that picture myself, and it looks like it could be Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Even when you colorize it, it looks like that it could be Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Okay, so we're not really sure about that picture, but the postcard we're sure of. Okay, we're actually sure about the postcard. All right, and so I wanted to get into. All right. So the thing that I want to talk about is that did Marcus Garvey necessity of nation building so that Prophet Noble Drew Ali could restore their nationality and birthrights? So the thing is that because in the Holy Quran, the Moorish Science Temple of America, Circle 7, it says in the Holy Quran, the Moorish Science Temple of America, Circle 7, that Marcus Garvey was the forerunner for Prophet Noble Drew Ali in these days, sort of like what John the Baptist was for Yeshua. That's what they're saying. Marcus Garvey in the Quran said that he was the forerunner. In other words, what a forerunner is someone who comes before the actual individual, before the prophet, prepares the people to meet the coming prophet, who was to bring the true and divine creed of Islam. And his name is Noble Drew Ali, right? We know that. That's what we do know. Okay. And so that's why I think, because Marcus Garvey taught Negroism, I believe that is why Prophet Noble Drew Ali found it necessary to call him a forerunner, because he was there stirring up the people, so Prophet Noble Drew Ali could bring them the true and divine creed, talking about nationality and birthrights, who they are, the Muhammadan religion, and those things. So I believe that Prophet Noble Drew Ali really, really thought in his mind that that would be better for the people, if he did that. Okay, so that's what he did. Okay. All right, so Marcus Garvey. So I talked about, so I want to go into Marcus Garvey, and I want to talk about his birth and early life. So Marcus Garvey, we know, was born on August the 17th, 1887, and he passed on June the 10th, 1940. Wow. So he didn't even get to see his next born day. So I believe he was at the age of 52 when he passed. All right. And so we already established where he was born. His parents were Marcus Mosiah Garvey Sr., who was a Stones man, and his mother was Sarah Jane Richards, a domestic worker and farmer. And Marcus Garvey was the youngest out of 11 children. Although only Marcus Garvey and one sister are commonly mentioned, because they think that either younger ages, the brothers and sisters passed away at younger ages. Maybe that's what happened. They passed away at younger ages. Or, they just didn't get as much recognition as Marcus Garvey and his sister did. All right. And so that's the only ones that we do know about. Okay. And so Garvey did not emerge from political privilege. His father's work required skill, strength, and precision. His mother's labor represented the work performed by generations of women who held families together under colonial conditions. From his work household came a man who eventually addressed crowds in Madison Square Garden and built an organization with divisions across continents. Garvey left formal schooling while still young and entered into the printing trade. So printing was not merely an employment for him. It gave him access to language, newspapers, arguments, and machinery. And so with these ideals, he was able to travel with that information that he got, which made him so successful, starting a newspaper, because he had already, looked into that, and he was already preparing himself for that. And so that's one of the good things about that. He already was preparing himself. So he may not have finished school, but he certainly was preparing himself to get to work he had to do. He was definitely doing that. All right. So he learned that controlling a press meant possessing the ability to speak beyond the range of one human voice. As a young man, Garvey traveled and worked in Costa Rica and Panama and encountered exploitation affecting people of African descent throughout the Caribbean until Latin America. He saw that the conditions was not confined to one island. Colonial power and economic dependency across borders. Garvey later relocated to London. He attended classes at Birkbeck College and worked for the African Times and Orient Review, a journal associated with Pan-African thought. In opposition to colonial dimension, London placed him near the center of an empire, while allowing him to meet thinkers from the territories that the empire controlled. Here is the first lesson of Garvey's life. Education is larger than a classroom. Okay. All right. So when he traveled, praying, observing, and disciplined reading help from his political imagination, he returned to Jamaica convinced that scattered people required an international organization. Okay, so that's what he really did. So one of the things that he wanted to do when he went back to his country after coming back is he wanted to talk to the people about, getting together. But most of those people ignored him. They did not listen to him. A lot of them were affluent, so they didn't care. And a lot of them had the mindset that they were educated. And so if they're educated, they don't feel like that they needed to listen to him. They didn't want to listen to what he had to say. And so a lot of his own people in his own territory didn't listen to nothing he had to say. Of course, they take credit for Marcus Garvey today, but they didn't want to hear nothing he had to say. So he had to wind up where he came. He wind up coming to the United States is where he wind up coming to. Okay. So one of the things is Marcus Garvey. So the UNA begins in Jamaica in July 1914. So that's where it began. So a lot of people think it started over here in the United States, but it did not. He tried to start this over here in his own country in Jamaica in July 1914. That's when he tried to start it. Marcus Garvey and Amy Ashwood helped establish the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League in Jamaica. Now, a lot of times people don't talk about the women. He was married 2 times from my study, and both women were of Jamaican. They had this lie going around and said Marcus Garvey was married to a European. Never happened, according to his history. I don't even see that he would do that because he was about his people. But it was that his wives, that both of them were included in the whole movement of the UNIA. So both of his wives were included, but the first one was Amy. Okay, Amy Ashwood, who helped establish the Universal Negro Improvement Association. Okay, an African Community League in Jamaica. It was broad program called Unity, Racial Pride, Education, Economic Development, and Humanitarian Services, and the advancement of people of African descent. The organization did not immediately become a mass Jamaican movement, though. Garvey faced class resistance, limited resources, personal criticism, and skepticism about his authority and plans. Some established Jamaicans did not accept him as their leader. I spoke about that earlier. His working class background and sweeping ambition did not fit comfortably within the island class and the so-called color hierarchies. Okay, so in addition to that, you have to ask yourself, the people that were under colonial rulership, why did not they not want to listen to what Marcus Garvey had to say? Well, we've talked about that lots of time on Real Moorish Talk. They were comfortable with colonialism, right? They felt as though if it was the European speaking about what they were talking about, if it came from the European, then that would be acceptable. But coming from your own people, they weren't very accepting of that at all. And so that's some of the problems that we still facing today. So they didn't want to listen to Marcus Garvey. Why? Because he looked like them, right? He looked like they did. And his whole mission is because he had traveled, and everywhere he traveled, he saw that the people were being treated badly everywhere he traveled. It wasn't just in Jamaica, when he traveled. It was in the islands that he traveled to. He saw the same thing over and over again. And so he felt upon himself that it was something that I need to do about this. I need to take care of this. I need to get a hold of this. Something has to happen over here. But his people over there, his territories, did not agree with what he was saying. So they did not want to have Marcus Garvey come over there with that, So anyway, under colonial rulership, so the geographic identity knew that Jamaica as their homeland. They had a parish, island, family, religion, and cultural identities. With a population already accustomed to calling itself Jamaica, ready to surrender that territory name to make Negro its priority. Okay, so they didn't see of changing from Jamaicans to Negro. I mean, and let's face it, the Negro had no nationality, no territory, no landmass, no nothing. So for him to try to tell established Jamaicans that they were Negroes, that wasn't going to fly. And we know that Negro is the same thing. Negro means black. It's the same thing. So I'm sure those who probably knew already knew that too. And why would I want to give up my nationality to become a Negro? Why would I not want to be Jamaican to become a Negro? Even though we know that the territory was colonialized, it still did not make sense for me. That doesn't sound right. I'm not going to no longer be a Jamaican. I'm going to be a Negro instead. That didn't make any sense. But when he came over here, of course, and we're going to talk about that, the people here didn't have any concept of who they're going or what their end might be, right? They had no idea who they were. So they was ready to accept it because they were already being called Negroes over here. So they were ready to accept it because that's what they were being called. All right. All right. All right. And so one of the reasons that I think that most people refuse to be called that to become a Negro is class, color, politics, personality, resource, and colonial conditions all matter. People that were in positions, of hierarchy or had good so-called jobs or, thought that they were living pretty good, what he was saying was not going to be anything for them. They couldn't even think about being called a Negro at that particular time. So that's one of the things they did not want to do. Okay. All right. So we know that after the disconnection, we know that nationality and birthrights was not Marcus Garvey. He did not invent the word Negro. The word Negro was already in use. So it's not something that he created and started calling people Negro, because a lot of times I've heard people in conversations say, oh, well, he brought that Negro. Negro was already being used. And as you learned from when Taj was on the show talking about the nigger problem, right, during the Yakub's experiment, that word came from the troglodyte nigger, who was the caveman, the poetic man. That's who it came from. So when they start throwing things on us that was them, what they would start doing is throwing that on us. They tried to make us the Negro and remove that from them and put it on us. And so that's something that we should have never been accepted. But Marcus Garvey, for some reason, thought that word would be better use of it, because he thought there was some type of pride or classification in the word Negro, because he knew over here we were not Jamaicans over here. So he could not come over here saying Jamaicans, because we were not Jamaicans over here. And so this word he did not intend to insult anyone with the word Negro. So I wanted to clear that up. That's not what he intended to do. But we know that he did bring Negroism. We know that that's what he brought. He brought Negroism to the United States. And one of the things was, when the people, because they were already being called Negroes, they started taking pride because a lot of things he had to offer. So let's talk about that. Okay. Now I want to make sure I get through my notes while we're having the conversation about this, because one of the things that's important, that make sure that I keep historical records, information historical, because all this information you can find it historically that I'm talking about, and also in my book about Marcus Garvey. It's Marcus Garvey, Coming to a Scattered People is the name of my book. And so I'll make sure that I hold it up for you before the end of the show. But again, you can click the link right in the description box and it'll take you right to the book on the website. All right. So Marcus Garvey, as I said, he did not invent the word Negro, and he did not intend to insult anyone with the word Negro. His vocabulary was in the era and sought the reverse of its meaning, and attempted to take a name associated with degradation and make it a sign of pride. So organizations worldwide, solidarity and power, historical information. So he thought that if he came to the people and told them there was pride in what you were being called, then that would be good. So if you had pride in what you were being called, if you were being called a Negro, he wanted you to have pride in being called a Negro. And so when Marcus Garvey comes to America, and he arrives in the United States in March 1916. So that's when he arrived here, March of 1916. After traveling and lecturing, he established a New York UNI division. The organization grew, and the Great Migration, wartime disruption, racial violence, segregation, and widespread dissatisfaction with leadership that many working people believed did not speak directly to he didn't speak directly to them. In America, Marcus Garvey found people who had courage, talent, labor, faith, and community, but whose organization national connections had been obscured by generations of enslavement and legal classification. The United States had assigned them a succession of racial and social labels while denying them collective political power. Garvey's message was electrifying because he did not ask people to wait for someone else to come and rescue them. You know, we have this rescue syndrome. A lot of times we're waiting for somebody to come and rescue us. Like a lot of people are waiting for Yahshua to come back. People who believe in all of that, waiting for Yahshua to come back, the man they call Jesus, which we know that's not his true identity, but that's who they wanted to be. So that's who they're looking for to come back. All right. And so the United States assigned a succession of racial labels to these people. And so Garvey's electrifying message, because he did not ask people he didn't ask them for anything. He wasn't looking for them. What he wanted them to do is learn their history and develop enterprise and see themselves as participants in a worldwide struggle. Okay. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to talk about political education. All right. He wanted to talk about that. He wanted to talk about ranges and things like that. He wanted to talk about people who wanted to do inventions, people who wanted to be inquirers, people who wanted to be nurses. He wanted to say youth groups, newspapers, and international offices all over the place. All right. And so he wanted people to grow as a nationhood of people. He wanted people to come that way. All right. And so that's what he was looking to do. All right. And so what happened with this whole movement when people started following Marcus Garvey, then they called it Garveyism, right? Because we know that the ism on the end of anything, ISM, means the practice of, right? So we know that Marcus Garvey was the one that they were following. So it was called Garveyism. That's what the people started calling it, Garveyism. So our Garveyites are the people that follow Marcus Garvey. Garveyism is the practice of what Marcus Garvey taught. And I met a couple of brothers that went back to Jamaica. One brother was deported back. One brother went back, and we had to do some national paperwork for him, and so he could go back to Jamaica. And one of the things was that they are really big followers of Marcus Garvey. And so him and I have had a lot of discussions on the information about Marcus Garvey, because one of the things that I want people to recognize is that Marcus Garvey did what he thought at the time to make sure that he was able to try to do something for his people, because what he could not accomplish in Jamaica, he wanted to try to accomplish here in the United States. And what he found when he got here was people that were hungry for someone to lead. They were hungry. They didn't have anybody that was leading them really at the time. It was a big argument about being colored or being a Negro. No one was really here to support the people. No one was really here to help us out. You know, with anything, we had our so-called churches, but those churches, even though they were saying that they were Jewish churches or Judaism or under the Judaism faith, they were calling themselves Judeo-Christian faith, which really was practicing Christianity. So there was no one here really to do that. And Marcus Garvey did not come with a Christian mentality. He came with information trying to wake the people up to have some self-pride and some race pride. So that's what he was doing. Okay. All right. All right. So the question, can a people build lasting national power while their central names remain a racial classification? Can a provisional government substitute for identifying the existing nationality and birthrights of the people themselves? Garvey awakened national ambition. Prophet Noble Drew would insist upon nationality and identification. And that's what the two differ from, because I believe the conversation, I was not there. I believe the conversation between Prophet Noble Drew and Marcus Garvey was that Prophet Noble Drew appreciated everything that he did in coming to teach the people. I'm fixing my fan. Coming to teach the people, But he was letting Marcus Garvey know, we appreciate what you did. You came over here to wake up the people, but we're not Negroes. We're not colored people. We're not black people. So even though you came over here and did that, and we appreciate what you did, because the people were hungry, they were asleep, they had no self-knowledge of who they were, that nationality and birthright is what we would need to teach the people. And so I'm thinking that that conversation, I wasn't there, but I can imagine the conversation that they had with each other. I apologize. Are you saying that I'm not being heard? I apologize if I'm. Oh, all right. Bilal was saying I was not being heard, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. And so, but anyway, let me get back to my thought, because this is really important information that we need to know about Marcus Garvey, because most of us only know about Marcus Garvey being a forerunner for Prophet Noble Drew Ali. A lot of us do not know that the work he actually had to come to do to make sure that what his mission was, his portion in the waking of the people was. And that is what we're going over today, Marcus Garvey. And I really appreciate the whole red, black, and green, the banner, because we know the Moorish flag is a red flag with a 5-pointed green star in the center. We know that the banner that Marcus Garvey brought was red, black, and green. And we're going to, of course, we know everybody knows red stands for the blood. We know that they say black, he said that stands for the dark complexion of the people, and green to associate with the landmass and more connection to our African heritage. That is what the red, black, and green banner stands for. And in the Jamaican flag, we know is red, yellow, and green. So Marcus Garvey put a spin on it to try to give us, because, you know, there's a European group out there that said the coons have no flag. It's something that I had downloaded when I saw that, and they were making fun of, and I think this was one of Marcus Garvey's inspirations. They made this song out during that time, "The Coons Have No Flag," and you know, that's another name for us as coons that they try to put on us. We know that doesn't identify who we are, but that's in the nigger, black, colored, coon, shine, jigaboo, all those. Well, they said the coons without a nation, the coons without a flag. So the thing that they were saying is that as a people, we had no nationality, we had no birthright, we had no flag. And I think that Marcus Garvey, that bothered him somewhat, to the point where he was like, you know, we got to get a banner. We got to get something that represents us as a people. We have to have something that flies. And even to the point where some of the schools, like years later, you know, I think this is in the 1970s. I do have it in my book. Marcus Garvey was, to make sure we honor Marcus Garvey. A lot of the schools, the public schools, especially on the Asiatic side of town, wanted to fly the banner that Marcus Garvey, red, black, and green. Well, a lot of people didn't even show up for that meeting. So when they approved it, because a lot of people didn't show up for it, then once they knew that the banner was going to be flying over the school alongside the so-called United States flag, they wanted it banned. So they went back and forth fighting. And so they removed it, just like they do everything else. They removed it where the flag could not be flown. But of course, now we know in time today, we know that the flag is being flown today, right? It's being flown because, you know, of fighting constantly for what we stand for. And now the flag is being flown today. All right. So that, you know, he wanted to make sure that we had a banner, something to represent ourselves. Okay. All right. So understanding with pride was really important. Newspapers came along. We had newspapers and poetry. And, you know, he taught us about being political, newspaper poetry, about being political. He also told us about, you know, our clothes and garb and things like that, and considered that being, you know, that us dressing as colonial occupiers. But he was saying that one of the things that he did is that we had the right to wear uniforms. Like the uniform that you see, probably I have in the front of my book, is one of the most famous pictures that people love to see him in, because he took a lot of pride in putting together military for us. And so that was not representing the military of the European, like a lot of people think. It was him putting together his own military for that organization. All right. All right. So we know that after Marcus Garvey came here and started the newspaper, he started teaching us about education. Okay. And that was really important because a lot of us did not have education. You know, we really didn't know about ourselves. We didn't know, but a lot of us, because coming out of the condition we were in, the schools were not the best. And some of the schools that we did have didn't have books or information about who we were, no historical content, only from oral tradition, which griot is fine from oral tradition, but we weren't really writing a lot of things down. And so one of the things that became really, really important was to teach the people about themselves, identity, respect, and those things. So those are some of the things that Marcus Garvey really, really wanted to get to the people and teach the people about who they were. And now we have to ask ourselves that too, at the time that Marcus Garvey was doing all of this information and things like that, where was a lot of other Asiatic leaders that could have helped with this? Where are the other Asiatic leaders that could have assisted him in doing that versus fighting against him for what he was trying to do? He got into a lot of opposition from Asiatic leaders because he wanted to try to bring us back into the constitutional fold of government again by what he thought would be. You know, his big mission was the whole African thing, you know, going back to Africa. That was his big thing. You know, he wanted to have boats and ships and things like that that sent us back to Africa. And so that's some of the things that he wanted to do. And so a lot of us, you know, weren't even thinking about going back to Africa, but we thought, well, if we're being treated so badly over here, why not, you know, go follow him and go back to Africa? But then if you have to think about it, one of the things that I was told is that Marcus Garvey was talking about Africa in the mind. He wasn't talking about actually physically going to Africa, but we know that he had boats, right? And he named those boats, and he was looking to try to put the people back on boats to go back to Africa because of the treatment and mistreatment that we were having here in what you call the United States of America. So that's some of the things that we have to ask ourselves true for. And so we know that with Marcus Garvey and everything that he did, that one of the things that he did not teach was nationality and birthright. That was something that was not in his agenda. He said one aim, one destiny, you know, one religion. Those things came from him. So the aim was to get the people together. So that was one of his main things, togetherness, getting people together in unity. And that wasn't happening, you know, over here. We were so separated from different information. We didn't know who to follow, what to follow. And now I can't even imagine. Can you imagine yourself being in that era of time and you coming out of slavery? And when you come out of slavery, you have no idea where you're going, no idea who you are, no idea who your family members are, where your family's at. You have no idea what's going on. And no, everyone is just running around like chickens with their heads cut off with no real place, not really knowing where they're going, you know, just having no place at all. And so what do you say about something like that? You have to have someone to guide the people, someone. So Marcus Garvey and Noble Drew Ali were in the same area of time. The people from Marcus Garvey, a lot of them went with Prophet Noble Drew Ali. You know, a lot of the family, like my family being under the Garveyite movement, followed the Prophet Noble Drew Ali into the founders movement. They were able to follow because someone else was still there giving the message. But then it would seem quite confusing. Think about it. If you're told from one individual that you're a Negro and to be proud to be a Negro, and then you have this other information coming across that you're not Negroes, you're not colored folks, you're not Black people. So you're like, what's going on here? And so you can imagine the amount of confusion that happened during that time. It was so much confusion going on during that time. And so people were trying to do the best they could. They did not know exactly where to go. So, and then Marcus Garvey, no matter what he did, he was trying to make sure he educated the people. That was a really big deal for Marcus Garvey, is that when he saw that he couldn't reach the people in his territory, he came over here and tried to reach the people in this territory. And he saw that he had a big fight on his hands. He knew that trying to wake a people up out of slumber, people that were sleeping, was a difficult task. And he was only trying to use the terms in which they had, because you have to think about it. He's a man that came from an island where he had a nationality. He came from an island where he had a birthright. He knew who his mothers and fathers were. He knew who his sister and brothers were. Even though they weren't the British rulership, he still knew who he was, and he had a nationality. But when he came over here, the people did not have no nationality. They didn't know what it was. They didn't know who they were. They didn't know what it was or anything. They had no idea of what was going on. So big for Marcus Garvey was to come over here and teach the people what he thought they should know. All right. And so that's some of the things about Marcus Garvey. I'm going to stop for a moment and go to the chat and see what people have in the chat. May have asked some questions about what's in the chat. So I'm going to go to the chat real quickly. All right. And go to the comment section. All right. And see what you all have to say so far, what I've been talking about in Marcus Garvey. All right. And that's what we're talking about today, Marcus Garvey. If you all have some questions about what I have the information, or, any questions for me about what the information that I have about Marcus Garvey, or you all have something that you want to put in the chat about Marcus Garvey, do so. There's so much information that I do have about Marcus Garvey, so I want to share that. And don't forget, you can go to, make sure you go to our books. All right, and purchase our books. Okay, we got Marcus Garvey, the school fundraiser donation, and here we go with the books. All right, and that's just another the advertisement again on the flyer. But the books is books at circle7publishing.com. You can go there and purchase the book on Marcus Garvey. If you click the link in the chat, it should show you the link in the chat. Or if you go there and click it, all right, it'll show you the link in the chat. All right. It'll show you the link in the chat. All right. So let's take a look here really quickly. All right. So let's see. It said the famous Marty Marr. Good evening, Prime Minister. Good evening to you, Marty Marr, as well. All right. And we have Alexis Bey, Islam Prime Minister. Thanks for I can't see it all. Thanks for the continent. I'm not sure, unless I can't spell. I apologize. I'm not. I don't know what is that exact continuity. I'm not sure what that's saying. Okay, Islam Prime Minister. All right, Islam Mother, Islam. All right, so today we're talking about Marcus Garvey. So I do want you all to MOORS. I want you all to put information in that you may know about Marcus Garvey, you and I. And listen, that years later, we know that he was given, an honor. I believe it was, I want to say, was it, I have the president, which president was that gave him an award. All of my notes are not showing up on this prompt. I'm going to have to pull them out, but Leslie says, greetings, assalamu alaikum, Prime Peace. Let's welcome the Prime Minister, National Grand Sheikh Durriyyah Bey. Oh, shukran for that. Madudi, assalamu alaikum, Prime Minister. Thanks for all you do. Islam, shukran. See, honor to the Prophet Noble Jolly, always honoring him. National and birthright is the order of the day, all day, every day, every single day. Well, we know Prophet Noble Jolly had a lot of respect for Marcus Garvey. And so we want to make sure that we honor Marcus Garvey, because a lot of us do. And we have Marcus Garvey Day. I've been to a lot of Marcus Garvey events. Salute to all Facebook's FMA fans. A lot of his events. Islam, my sister. Islam, Sister BJ. All of the events that I went to, Allah is the greatest. Islam Umi. And all of those events, no respect. Yes, Marcus Garvey met with the KKK, and I'm going to talk about that, Infants Marty Mar. And it's no disrespect. I have in the book the reason that he took the information with the KKK. I printed my information out, but I don't think all of it uploaded. So I got to go over it. I didn't want to have the dates and times mixed up. But yes, he did meet with the KKK. You're absolutely right. All right, Islam, love to peace, freedom, and justice. Islamism, Moorish Muslims. He met with the KKK, and he said why he met with the KKK. The reason that Marcus Garvey met with the KKK was that he was saying that because the KKK had the same thought, right, of separatism. They had the same thought of not, they didn't want to be with us. And so Marcus Garvey was like, well, we don't want to be with y'all either. So what do you think the solution to this would be? And that's where he met with the KKK. But it wasn't against us when he met with them. It was for trying to build a foundation for us. And he was ridiculed for that meeting with the KKK. I mean, they never let him, the boys chewed him up about the KKK. So I'm going to go into that too. So we have, okay, so that's Brother Lee. So he is always reminding us of the prophet. We appreciate that. Let's see if we have any other comments. And that's no disrespect to the KKK. No disrespect to Marcus Garvey at all. And let's see, we have C. Johnson Thomas. Oh, happy Moorish American Month, everyone. Islam, happy Moorish American Month. And then he was teaching self-governance, and No Jolly was teaching identity. And that's good legacy vibration. I'm glad that you are in on that with that. Let's see. Yes, he was trying to teach us how to govern ourselves. Yes, he was. All right, let's see. This says, thank you, Mother. I never thought about the Marcus Garvey, even though Jamaica is not the ancient name of that landmass, but you are correct. And you're right. Jamaica is not the ancient name of that landmass. Do you want to provide us with the landmass name is? That would be great. Comedy Gold. Oh, okay. I'm not sure what that is. But anyway, I'm not sure what that is. But anyway, and so as I was talking about Marcus Garvey, so one of the things with Marcus Garvey is I'm going to go ahead and print it all the way out, because I wanted to talk about, someone mentioned about the KKK, and I wanted to talk about that, the meeting with the KKK, because that's important. A lot of us don't know about the K. I apologize when I turn my head, that I might have turned my head and you all cannot hear me. Just give me a second. My prompter didn't pick up everything that I wanted to talk about. All right. So, but yeah, so I wanted to make sure that we all understood that when Marcus Garvey did meet with the KKK, that it wasn't against us. He wasn't meeting against our people or anything like that. That's one of the things that we need to make sure we kind of comprehend, that he wasn't doing anything against us as a people. He really thought that meeting with the KKK would be able to give him some ideas on how he could separate us, because if they didn't want to be with us and we didn't want to be with them, he's like, well, let's solve this problem. How can we solve this problem? And, a lot of people would not have done what he did, as far as me with the K. I don't think I know any leader that we have had that come to the Asiatic people that literally took the time to actually meet with the KKK. I can't think of any, because the meetings with the KKK most of the time were very detrimental. I think that maybe, I want to say Martin Luther King might have met with some of them. I'm thinking historically, but the only one that I know historically recorded is Marcus Garvey, that he did meet with them. Okay, and the reason that he met with them again was not against his own people. That wasn't his reason for meeting with the KKK. All right, so I just want you all to understand that. But anyway, I want to talk about some of the other things with Marcus Garvey too, because I wanted to go into both of the women, because a lot of times historically, we as women get left behind when when we're talking about history and women, because no one wants to really talk about us for whatever reasons. And so what our work was. And so because I wanted to stay into that, going into Marcus Garvey, let's see, I wanted to talk about that. And we're going to talk about his prison, when he was in prison also, and his visit with Prophet Noble Drawley. So I want to get into all of that today, right here on Real Moors Talk. You're on Shadow Hour with Real Moors Talk. And here we talk about real issues and real things, you know, that we need to talk about. All right. All right. So I'm going to, let's see, I wanted to talk about, so I talked about his early life, and I talked about him coming over here, and I talked about where he traveled from. Okay. So I wanted to go more into the UNI when he talked about. So in July, I said in July 1914, he started the UNIA in Jamaica. Okay, so that's where it originally started at, was in Jamaica. It was not started here in the United States. And I think a lot of times people have the misconception that it did start here in the United States, but it did not. Marcus Garvey started that UNI before he came here. You know, him and his first wife just started that organization. All right. And so we have to make sure that we're clear on that. Okay. And then Garvey. Okay. So let's talk about all right. So the UNIA Great Internal Conventions in 1920, delegates adopted the Declaration Rights of the Negroes People of the World and red, black, and green flag. The movement created offices and titles that symbolize worldwide government and collective responsibility. The Negro factories corporations sought to build and support enterprises. The UNIA Association actively included restaurants, laundromats, grocery stores, printing and manufacturing products, and other attempts at cooperation of economics. Okay, so that's some of the things that he wanted to make sure he did with the foundation on what he set up. He also started the Black Star line, which was established as a Black-owned commercial shipping company. It represented trade, transportation, connection, and control of the means by which goods and people moved. It became linked to Garvey's larger vision of Africa and the diaspora, my little accent, diaspora. But it should not be reduced to a single-purpose passenger line designated only to carry people back to Africa. Then that's what I was talking about with that ship. The Black Star Line also revealed the danger of attempting large economic projects without sufficient capital, experienced management, reliability, equipment, and strong internal controls. Some ships were in poor conditions. Business decisions became controversial. Supporters purchased stock from hope as well as financial expectations. When the company failed, the loss was economic, power, and emotional. Garvey deserves respect not because every project succeeded, but because he made millions imagine ownership on a scale that established order, considered being dangerous. Respect also means learning from the administration weakness. A movement needs vision, but also needs accountability, governance, engineering, knowledge, legal preparation, and mechanics that protect the people's investments. And the prophet always says that a beggar, so Marcus Garvey once says, a beggar nation cannot attain the highest in them or degree of spirituality, identifies a statement preserved that the prophet Noble Drawley talked about. And so Marcus Garvey was trying to keep us from being a beggar of people. He was trying to establish that, you know, we would have our own things to do so. And it's beautiful because what he was not able to really accomplish, Prophet Noble Drawley came in and picked it up and got the ball rolling. Okay. All right. So Garvey's movement generated opposition from outside and within the communities. He exchanged bitter criticism with W.E.B. Du Bois. That's what I was talking about. Other leaders. These disputes involved clash, strategy, ideology, leadership, organization, competition, and sharply personal attacks on Marcus Garvey. Garvey appealed powerfully to working with people with criticism, questioned his finance methods, claims, and political judgment. On June 25th, and this is what the brother was talking about, and like I said, purchase my book, hit the link in the chat. On June 25th, 1922, Marcus Mosiah Garvey Jr. met with Edward Young Clark, the acting imperial wizard of the Ku Klux Klan in Atlanta. Garvey later explained that he did not go because he wanted to become a member of the Klan. Of course, he could not become a member. He said that he wanted to learn the truth about the Klan's official attitude toward the people he represented. Garvey approached the meeting from his philosophy of independent nation building. He believed that integration would not produce genuine equality and that people of African descent needed control of their own government, land, commerce, institutions, and political destiny. Because the Klan openly opposed integration, Garvey believed its declared position exposed that many other European political forces practiced while concealing their intentions. Garvey therefore treated the meeting as a nationalistic diplomacy meeting. He believed an openly declared enemy was easier to understand than a supposed friend who privately supported discrimination. He also thought that the Klan's demand of a European-controlled America might be used to strengthen his argument for an independent African government by African people. But we must distinguish the destinations of the two movements. Garvey sought African liberalism, self-government, economic strength, and international national building. The Klan sought European supremacy, exclusion, intimidation, and the preservation of racial domination. Garvey viewed separation as a possible path towards collective power. The Klan viewed separation as a means of denying equality and removing African descendants people from America by political. The difference is not small. The KKK was not a neutral organization advocating peaceful parallel development. It was associated with terror, violence, intimidation, and murder. Garvey's willingness to recognize a tactical point of agreement with such an organization was a grave and dangerous political calculation. So even with meeting with them, the thing was Marcus Garvey, that was a power move when he did that. But they probably knew they couldn't kill him, because if they killed him, then we would go off, because they knew that he was going into the meeting. He didn't hide the meeting. So they knew he was going into the meeting with them. So if they was to kill Marcus Garvey, for that particular thought that they had or whatever, if they was to kill him, then we would have had a lot to say about that. So they didn't do anything. Many UNA members and other leaders felt betrayed, like W.E.B. Du Bois, A. Philip Randolph, Chandler Owen, William Pickens, and others condemned the meeting. The controversial strengthening the campaign remembered as Garvey must go, and became one of the most damaging turning points in Garvey's public standing. Okay, so when he met with him, he did not support the Klan at all. That was not, it was all about negotiation, support of African self-determination. That is the reason why he met with them. And W.E.B. Du Bois, I'm not really a fan of his. A lot of Asiatics try to use him as some type of, prominent Asiatic leader, but he was all into the Negroism and all of that, and he thought he was above everybody else and whatever. That he tried to keep us Negroes and keep us enslaved. So I don't have anything for W.E.B. Du Bois. Okay. All right. So Garvey's intended destination was African sovereignty. The Klan's intended destination was European domination. All right. And so their temporary agreement of the word separation did not make their purpose morally, politically, or historically equal. The federal government had already targeted Marcus Garvey. The Bureau of Investigation's records show official monitoring of him and considering deportation of him. We have that J. Edgar Hoover sought evidence that could remove him from the country. That political hostility forms a central context, but it does not automatically answer every question about the Black Line Star management. They were Trump. Garvey and other Black Line Star officials were indicted on charges involving mail fraud and related allegations. The central mail fraud case concerned promotional material and stock sales, including representation of a ship associated with plans for the line. Garvey defended himself at a trial and was convicted. Supporters argued that the prosecution was politically motivated and that he had been singled out. Okay, So the Black Lifestyle started suffering business and marriage problems. The federal government also regarded Garvey as a political threat and worked towards the prosecution and deportation. Okay, Garvey entered the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary in February 1925. President Calvin Coolidge commuted his sentence on November 18, 1927. After sustaining appeals, Garvey was then deported. He did not fully choose to abandon the American movement. The government forcibly removed him. All right, and so I want to talk about that before I go into his return to Jamaica. I want to talk about the women that helped him with the movement. So, and then we'll talk about the final verdict and all of that too. So I also did a comparison list that I want to go over to as well with you all. You all know I like to do my comparison list. I always like to do those because it compares for where we are now to what happened with the KKK, what theirs was versus ours, with the Prophet Noble Jali. What about everything too as well? And so I do want to talk about that. And so let me just go back to my hour. I do want to move it around a little bit, shift it a little bit. I don't want to bore you all. But I do want to talk about the wives in here. I made sure I covered them in my book because a lot of times we're left out of everything. All right, so let's talk about, let me see. I gotta remember what page I put it on this paper. In the book, it's a different page. Okay, so here we go. So, all right. So we talked about his mother, his father. We talked about the brothers and sisters, and I wanted to talk about the women. I may not have put it on this sheet. I thought I did. But anyway, I talked about Amy, but I didn't talk about his second wife. So we talked about Amy and how she started. And this was back in Jamaica when they started the actual Universal Improvement Movement. That was Mamie, but he had a second wife. And I wanted to bring her on. The good thing about both his wives were Jamaican descent. And the thing is that because Marcus Garvey was fighting for the uniting of people and his purpose, both his wives were on board with that. And that's why I really wanted to bring them in. So a lot of times you don't always find that when you marry someone, because the first wife came in with him. So what he was trying to do, may happen. The second wife came on board after he had already established the movement. And so that's what it is. But he was married 2 times. And they try to say it was some kind of controversy between the wives. That, I'm not going to cover that today because I don't believe there was a controversy in between the wives because they were at different times. But it could be. But I do cover about some of that controversy in my book about the 2 wives that he had. And a lot of times I think during that time, a lot of times when men left one wife or another, a lot of times if they didn't get married into the European system, if they didn't do that, then a lot of things didn't count. So if you didn't get the marriage certificate, okay, maybe in Jamaica, if he got married over there in Jamaica to the first wife, maybe their system was different as far as marriage license was concerned. That doesn't make her less his wife. You have to ask yourself, who married the first man and woman? They didn't have paperwork from no government, right? The first man and woman. So if you want to say that, if you're married if you have children out of wedlock, if you want to say that, then all children would be bastards because if you want to say by lawful paperwork, which we know that doesn't happen, the paperwork does not make you man and wife. The prophet said only Allah can bind 2 hearts together. So the hearts that they bind together, they were bound together and then they no longer connected. And then you have to move on to marry someone else. All right. So that's just the whole point. All right. So it doesn't look like I'm going to find her in here where I wanted to find her at. All right, so the second wife. I just have the first wife mentioned, but I do cover in the book both wives. Just want to make sure that we talk about the information. Anyway, after him and the first wife separated or divorced, Marcus Garvey did marry again. All right, and I did talk about the controversy between him and W.E.B. Du Bois, and he always had controversy with somebody. I'm just not really a big fan of his for my own reasons of things that I've read about him. He's just not one of my favorite people. Okay, so anyway, let me just go back to finish this. So, all right, so after that, Garvey entered the Atlanta federal prison in February 1925. President Calvin Coolidge commuted his sentence on November 18, 1927, after sustained appeals. Garvey was then deported. He did not freely choose to abandon what he was doing over here. They just deported him. They found him a danger. And the amazing thing about Prophet Noble Drew Ali, they couldn't deport him because he was already here. And if we actually came from Africa somewhere, if we came from somewhere over there in Africa, of all the different nations in Africa, why didn't they try to deport our prophet? They deported Marcus Garvey because they had proof that he came from somewhere else. But if they keep trying to tell us that we got to go back to Africa, why didn't they not try to do the same for Prophet Noble Drew Ali? And one of the things about Prophet Noble Drew Ali, we always have to remember when they talk about Prophet Noble Drew Ali, you have to talk about nationality and birthrights. You can't get past that. See, with Marcus Garvey, you can talk about the Negro movement and all that. So they'll talk about Marcus Garvey because it wasn't waking anybody up to the conscience of nationality and birthrights. But you'll see YouTubes and books, including the book that I wrote on Marcus Garvey. I wrote one on Noble Drew Ali also. You will see that they talk about him on all these other different platforms. You'll see that. But tell me where you've ever seen once, where you've seen one about Noble Drew Ali. Anywhere. Even though it was one of those things that Taj was doing, I can't think of the name of it, but it wasn't real popular. But they did not really talk about the Prophet Noble Drew Ali in that. But I'm saying we have not had no documentary, and we have to make one, Moors. We don't have any documentary on Prophet Noble Drew Ali at all. And, no documentary on him whatsoever. And that bothers me that we don't have that. And I keep saying I want to put together a movie about Prophet Noble Drew Ali, put together a movie about Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And I'm going to wind up doing that, put together a movie about Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Because there's no one else doing it. Like there's no one talking about our legacy, our history. He's the one individual history prophet, whether you believe in a prophet or philosopher or intelligent man or whatever you might believe him as. They do not talk about him at all. They just don't. But we can hear them talk about everyone else. Daddy, Grace, Father Divine, Marcus Garvey, Elisha Muhammad. They talk about all those people, but they won't talk about Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And they also won't talk about the brother Khalid Muhammad that much because Khalid, before he passed, he talked about what? Nationality and birthright. All right. So let's go. So the federal government had already targeted Marcus Garvey of the investigation records show official monitoring of him and considered deportation. J. Edgar Hoover saw evidence that could remove him from the country. The political hostility forms a central context, but it does not automatically answer every question. Garvey, on the part that they had him on Central Mail Fraud, concerned about promotional materials and stock sales, including representation of a ship associated with the plans for the line. Garvey defended himself, but they wound up putting him in jail anyway. All right. So Garvey entered the prison, and like I said, on February, it was the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary in February 1925. President Calvin Coolidge commuted his sentence on November 18, 1927, after sustained appeals. He just kept appealing. Then he finally was free, but he was deported. Okay. He returned to Jamaica, continued his organizational work, and later moved to London in 1935. He died on June 10, 1940, following strokes. In 1964, his remains were returned to Jamaica, and he became Jamaica's first national hero. Now, this is interesting. Jamaica did not want to have anything to do with him when he was first over there and first trying to introduce his information. Isn't that something? Ironic, they didn't want to have nothing to do with Marcus Garvey. So he came over here, fought, made a name for himself, and then they fought to get his ashes back and all of this stuff. It's amazing the thoughts of our people when we're trying to wake us up. We don't have nothing to do with it, but now that he died, and people could have actually came to assist him and help him, but they didn't. All right, so in 1964, his remains were returned to Jamaica, and he became Jamaica's first national hero. The nation that had not fully embraced him early in the program ultimately placed him among the highest national symbols. Okay. Prophet Noble Ali confronted many of the same people and conditions, but his language moved into a different direction. He taught that the terms Negro, Black, and Color did not constitute the national names of the people. He identified the descendants of the ancient Moabites, Hamites, and Canaanites as Moorish Americans and taught nationality, birthright, divine creed, moral development, and civic duty. The Moorish movement was not simply a social club or another racial uplift society. It understands to identifying itself, divine and national movement, the divine dimensions, and we also conduct ourselves in the love, true peace, freedom, and justice. The personal attacks on Garvey appealed powerfully to working people, while critics questioned his finances, methods, claims, and political judgment. Okay. All right. So we have where this is where the connection of Marcus Garvey to Garveyism becomes intellectually important. Garvey trained people to think beyond neighborhood and plantation boundaries. He demonstrated mass organization, international communication, enterprise uniforms, conventions, and collective pride. While Prophet Noble Ali taught that national power required the restoration of people's own national identity. Garvey organized the Negro race into the posture of a nation. Noble Ali challenged the racial premise and taught the people that they were already members of a nation whose identity had been obscured. Okay, so one of the things that I want to make sure is that when we talk about Marcus Garvey, we know that we remember him as the forerunner. Does not make it significant, because when we say forerunner, when we're talking about a forerunner, as I spoke earlier in the podcast, that a forerunner is one who comes to prepare the people. Now we know that Prophet Noble Ali met with Marcus Garvey while he was in prison in 1927. And he did send a postcard to his wife saying that he had just got finished with the meeting with him. And I think a lot of information from what Marcus Garvey gave to the prophet helped the prophet know where he left off with the condition of the people and where he needed to pick up. Because you had Marcus Garvey, you had Prophet Noble Ali, both in the same era of time also but the thing was that one was teaching one and one was teaching another. So Prophet Noble Ali literally started teaching about nationality and birthrights to a people that were already told that they were Negroes. And so this is a lot of things that we have to consider. So as more as we honor Marcus Mosiah Garvey, because he did come, he did try to teach the people. He tried to gather the people together. He tried to teach the people things that we had not learned, things that we were lost in slave mentality. He tried to organize. I think what happened in the fail is, I'm not sure if he had an accountant or someone, because it's very hard to trust people. But when the fiat started coming in and he was selling shares to get on the boat and things like that, I don't think he has someone who really was equipped to assist him with the organization of the fiat that was coming in. And, the ship was not in the best, it was not in the best position. And so I believe that what happened at that particular time is that he needed to probably get the boat fixed. He needed to get organized on how many people would be able to go on a boat if he was taking them to Africa. He needs to know in Africa, where was he taking the people to go into Africa? And even if he was thinking about Africa and the state of the mind of the people, he needed to be able to give them something to hold on to. And it was not the Negroism here. So I think a lot of what happened to Marcus Garvey was just trial and error. I think that some of the things he was looking to do, he didn't have the support to do. I think people were not there to support him to do that. And so therefore, he wind up getting in a whole lot of trouble, because we know flyers, you can pass out flyers today, you can pass out lots of flyers today. And by him passing out flyers was not mail fraud. But they chumped up charges on him because he was a danger to the waking of the people. They were in the Jim Crow era. They still wanted us to be into slavery. They didn't want anybody coming in trying to free us or trying to free us and trying to get them to thinking again. They wanted to have full control over our minds and our bodies and continue even after slavery was supposed to be abolished. They wanted to continue to keep us in that state of mind because that's what they made their most fiat, keeping us slaved. All right, I'm going to go back to the comments to see. It says Garvey opposed integration and miscegenation, advocating instead of black people to return to Africa. Advocating instead for black people to return to Africa. All right, and that was a More Science Learning Center. Okay, let's see. It says, because the KKK also wanted a racially separate society, Garvey sought the Klan's tactic, understand a backing for his Back to Africa and immigration initiatives. That is true. I spoke on that. Shukran for that. Your nationality is American. No such nationality is Moorish American. I'm not sure why you said my nationality wouldn't be an American. So you're saying that. And the reason that would not be is because being American, what? That doesn't give you a nation. That's a continent. Every other individual in here has a nationality. You have Italians, Japanese, Chinese, Arabians, Hindus. You people who have a nationality, so they're Italian American, Russian American, Hindu American. Everyone has a nationality, but you cannot be just American. So we're Moors from the descendants of Moroccans born in America. We are Moors, the ancient Moabites, and we have a nationality. And it ties us back to a landmass, a location. So we are not just Americans. And if you want to just be an American, that's really up to you. But it's not in the nationality. America is not a nationality for certain. Africa is not a nationality. America and Africa are two continents. But in those areas, there's people with nationalities. And your nationality is what denotes your nationality to you from your origin. That's who you are, your place of birth. So if you want to be American, it's your choice. But there's no such thing as your nationality as being American. That's an untruth. Okay? So we're not even, I'm not sure why you put that there. You made a lot of sense up to that point. All right, Morris. I'm going to go ahead and see if I see anything else. Someone says two different people. I think I'm getting a lot from Moorish Learning Center. I'm not sure, from Moorish Learning Center. And from, let's see, okay. Say Yusuf, okay, Yusuf Bey, teach Islam. Yes. And so that's the thing. We have to really understand, like, one of the things to me, I wanted to talk about Marcus Garvey because when we're on Road Moors Talk, it's really important that we have a history as Moors. Like, a lot of people do not, they know about Moorish science. A lot of them never knew about Prophet Noble Drali. And a lot of people don't understand why we connect. Like, why you teach about Marcus Garvey? You know, he taught Negroism. Yes, he did, but he taught what he understood at the time. But our prophet was so gracious because he said he was the forerunner. So he came before him to stir up the people. So now the people are all stirred up. The people are ready to hear now what had to be said. The people are stirred up because the prophet was already teaching. So the people were stirred up and they was ready to receive, especially because they snatched Marcus Garvey right from us. They snatched him away from us. And they didn't realize that, oh, someone else is right here. They're going to pick it up and keep it moving. So they took Marcus Garvey away from us. And the prophet said, when you take something away from people, you must do what? Put something in place. So Marcus Garvey was snatched away and the prophet was put in place of that. And for those who decided to stay on the move with learning who they were, stuck with Prophet Noble Drali. And for those who did not, either they went back to the church, or you have naysayers or people who really didn't. But listen, you had a lot of political leaders or people who spoke for us, like so-called W.B. Du Bois and others that were against what he was actually doing, what Marcus Garvey was doing. They was against him, and they probably helped set him up, because I don't trust W.E.B. Du Bois at all. You know, his whole mentality of the Negro and all of that, you know, he really didn't fight hard for freedom So as far as I'm concerned, he criticized, even though Frederick Douglass is one of my least favorite people with his old European whites at the end, he criticized Frederick Douglass. He was always criticizing someone. But instead of having a criticism, and that's a lot of Asiatics do that today, we criticize other Asiatics instead of giving them assistance on what we need to help to do. So you find it better to criticize an individual than to assist them in what to do. And the Europeans love it. So when we on these calls and we criticizing each other, or we on these talk shows and we're criticizing each other, instead of, I'm talking about legacy history, real Moorish talk. I'm talking about the things that happened to us historically. I'm talking about information, things you can learn from. I'm not on these talking about a whole bunch of crazy stuff that I don't care about. Maybe you don't care about either. I'm here talking about historical information, things that matter, things that can be proven, information that you can research. And one of the biggest things for me is I write books on most of the information I talk about. I try to make sure that when I have information for you, I have a book that you can associate the information to, with information research that you can look up on your own, so you can do your own research. One of the most important things that we could do is honor those parents that came before us. And Marcus Garvey is on August the 17th is his born day. And I'm going to be celebrating. As a matter of fact, this outfit that I have on is in representation of Marcus Garvey. This is his red, black, and green. I have the yellow in it for the Jamaican flag because he was Jamaican, but in honor of him trying to give us a banner. He tried to give us some hope and pride. He tried to make sure that we were not just lost after slavery, because he couldn't get his own people in his own territory to take on what he was teaching. He didn't give up. And as you can see, he was well traveled. He started the newspaper, right? And the newspaper ran for months, and we started a newspaper. He did that. He had all this information where he already had the training, right? He didn't finish school, but he went to training, right? Then he entered college later on, but he went to train to be able to learn how to work the press. And then he used that information to pass information to the people, to give the knowledge to the people. And so Marcus Garvey is a hero of mine. You know, I really admire Marcus Garvey and the work that he did, even though he taught what he knew. Like, the question I still have in my mind, if I could meet Marcus Garvey today, would be, why did you, as having a nationality, knowing that you were Jamaican, come over here and let the people, because they were being called Negroes, why didn't you talk to them about maybe trying to find out what their nationality was versus calling them Negroes? You know, because that's what the European called us. So if I could question him today, that's what I would ask him. Marcus Garvey, why didn't you try to find out the nationality of the people? We all were not Jamaicans, of course, because you were from the land of Jamaica. But I would have rather you call me a Jamaican versus a Negro, because Negro and black means the same exact thing. I have some questions for the audience, and I usually do questions for you all. And a lot of times, some of you all do not answer the questions, but I'm going to ask them anyway. And I do want to do my historical timeline, so I think I'll do that first. All right. So I like to do my source and fact-checking guide. All right. And so the information that I got from it, I want to just let you all know some of the information I got. So from Marcus Garvey, August 17, 1887 to June 10th, 1940. My resource that I got this from was the archives. It was the African American Archives, okay? And it was a baseline biography from the federal record links, so the federal government links. The National Archives of the Caribbean, I got that information also from there. It was about the indictment and the trial of Marcus Garvey. From the Library of Congress, I got the New Negro, and that was the use was the NAACP. Susan Nance, the Moorish Science Temple of America, Morocco, and and public culture. I got information from that, and that was from the analysis of the Moorish public culture and historical. All right, I got from Spencer Drew, the Universal Chicago Press 2019. I got the information from there. And Robert A. Hill, the Marcus Garvey Universal Improvement Program. So I got my research and fact guides from there. So for those who might want to know where my information came from. All right, so I wanted to go over that with you all. All right, all right. So now, where I wanted to talk about too before leaving this podcast, and I know we have a little bit of time left. I wanted to go over a surviving postcard, a tribute to Prophet Noble Jolly and addressed to his wife. So, Sister Pearl Ali carries the date October 23rd, 1927. The reported message reads, Dear wife, I have been to see Mr. Garvey at the federal prison. I will be home on Saturday or Sunday. Love to all. It is signed the name of Noble Durriyyah. And when we look at the signature, I have paperwork with his signature on it. It's his signature on the postcard. All right. So the wording that the prophet hoped to visit Marcus Garvey. I have to been see Marcus Garvey. The date fits. So a lot of people said that the dates don't match. So I want to read this. The date fits the established imprisonment timeline and the Garvey remained in Atlanta Penitentiary until his sentence was commuted in November 1927. So it matches the timeline because he met with him on October 23rd. He was not released until November 1927. And that might have been one of the reasons why they released him too, because nowadays like Marcus Garvey and Noble Durriyyah collaborating, because we know that Noble Durriyyah started teaching in 1913. Right. So the postcard, the postcard is an authentic postcard. Okay. So a lot of people say it's not because they want to try to say that he never met with him, but that's not true. All right. All right. So now I don't want people to misunderstand that we are not against the Pan-African movement, the more science simple. A lot of people say that we're not. We're just not going to be the black thing. A lot of you change your names to what you consider Pan-African names. So you change your first name. A lot of you all still keep the last name, which is really, really important to fix that last name because your last name is your name that dilutes you to your family. And Johnson, Jones, Smith, and all of those are slave masters. They do not connect you to your national name to your parents. All right. So the connection and distinction. So connection does not mean Prophet Noble Jolly also understood its terms. The most meaningful connection is that both refuse to accept permanent dependency. Both demanded organization, institutions, and both insisted that a fallen people could not rise through knowledge, discipline. Fallen people could not rise without knowledge, discipline, unity, and collective action. So if you don't have those things connecting you, you cannot rise. The deepest distinction in the name of the people Garvey sought to elevate the Negro into international power. Prophet Noble Jolly taught the elevation required abandoning Negro as a national description and return to the free national names of our ancient mothers and fathers. And so that's one of the most important things that we need to make sure that we understand. That Prophet Noble Jolly and Marcus Garvey had the same fight in their head, the same fight, but one was on a national level. All right, so I want to celebrate Marcus Garvey because he taught oppression of people imagine power. He made ships, factories, newspapers, convention, uniforms, flags, and international government part of the political vocabulary. He showed that ordinary working people could finance a wide world movement or a worldwide movement. We also recognize the contradictory a Jamaican-born man with a known homeland organized an American population beneath an imposed racial term. Garvey attempted to transform that term into pride and power. Prophet Noble Jolly taught the people needed more than improved racial designation. They needed nationality, birthrights, creeds, and self-knowledge. All right. So Marcus Garvey, was a monumental organized leader and forerunner awakening national ambition for the people. Prophet Noble Jolly organized as well with proclamation of nationality and birthrights. All right, and so we want to honor Marcus Garvey. I want to honor him because his born day. I used to, when I was younger, go to all those things, and I would like to do one, but I don't see a lot of people celebrating Marcus Garvey as much as they used to now. My daughter did a video the year prior, the same month of August, around Marcus Garvey time. And they had a big thing in Baltimore. And I'm going to look and see if they have that again this year. It wasn't as many people out as it would normally be. And the sister was telling me that a lot of people stopped coming. So why do we stop celebrating after a while? The fire burns down. We get comfortable with this European. We get comfortable with what they're giving us. And then now we're slowing down and we're not really putting our effort into our leaders that came here to lead us and uplift us. We're starting to not do what we need to keep their memory alive. And so I'm going to challenge all of you tonight on Real Moorish Talk. We don't have as many live people as we normally have, but I'm going to challenge you all on Real Moorish Talk tonight to find a Garvey festival or something somewhere in your area and go and support it. We were shooting a video and we have video footage of the event in my daughter's video, but I had a wonderful time while we were working, just seeing all those melanated people out there celebrating tradition of Marcus Garvey. I really, really did. And what I'm going to do this year is I'm going to take the book, because I had not finished writing it at that time. And I have so many notes. I have so many books on leaders. I have one on El Malik El Shabazz. I know they have a big one that was written, but I have one that I wrote on El Malik. I have Marcus Garvey. I have Prophet Noble Jolly. I put him and the reincarnated prophet together. They're same era, one movement at a time. I have books on different leaders that that I appreciate. I do not write about the leaders that I do not really find myself really connecting with. I don't want to waste my energy on those type of books, because you can get those anywhere. But what I want to do is put the information out there that we should be learning about. And what was so interesting to me is that when I read a lot of times about Marcus Garvey in other books, I didn't see anything about his wives. Now it doesn't say whether he ever had children or not. I've never seen where he had any children. I'm still doing more research on that. And if I do find a child, I'll do an updated version. But I just see that he had 2 wives, but it doesn't say anywhere where he ever had children. So that might take a little bit more deep diving to find that out in my notes. And if so, then I'll make sure that I'd include that in any updates that I do in the book, any update. But I want you all to listen. Marcus Garvey brought the red, black, and green banner. We know that our flag is a red flag with a 5-pointed green star in the center, but celebrate. Wear your colors, red, black, and green. Get a banner, hang it up, because he did bring so much to our lives. And what's amazing to me is we can celebrate all these other holidays, but when it comes to our own people, we don't want to support or celebrate. I'll never understand that. Why do we not want to recognize Marcus Garvey? I wanted to talk about him. Yes, he did bring Negroism, he did to the people. But the good thing for him is Prophet Noble Jolly came and straightened it out. But he did bring a group of people together. Listen, if you ever watch, it's a movie that they did on Marcus Garvey. It was on YouTube. And I've watched it several times. Those sisters, their sister auxiliary, how you see the sisters in, the Nation of Islam dressing? Look at Marcus Garvey's movie. And you'll see them with the same, they have the same kumars on, same hijabs. They have uniforms on, just like the sisters in the Nation of Islam have on. You'll see those. You'll see all of that. You'll see, the NOI, the Nation of Islam, the Fruit of Islam with the men, uniforms marching. Check out that movie. Marcus Garvey, they have footage. Marcus Garvey had all that going. So when you look at things that people took away, like, you would never people that follow Elijah Muhammad are so in denial of everything. They're in denial of that he came out of the Moorish Science Temple. They're in denial that Wallace, that fraud, that European is not God in person. He's a fraud. He's a European. He's a criminal. He's not no prophet. He's not no God. They'll kill you. I had a sister who wanted to physically attack me because of that, but that was on her because she was going to get a good beat down, because truth is truth. I don't care whether it's too stern for the nation or not. As the prophet said, the truth is the truth. And the bottom line, that's what those people are. But look at that. They'll never say that he copied off Marcus Garvey, but he did. If you look at that, he did that. You never see in the Moorish Science Temple, the Prophet Noble Ali did muftis, but he never put us in uniform. And our sisters did wear auxiliary like Marcus Garvey. So that's something that we did get from the Garveyite movement or Prophet Noble Ali or whoever started first. It certainly wasn't Elijah Muhammad. But all of those things, we'll see that information. And so those movements borrow from each other to try to get us on the right path. So I'm not sure why we want to keep acting like that, we can't give one credit for the other. And all of this was in the sort of the same time frame. And why these figures are so important to me, because the bottom line is that we need each other more so after a while, the prophet said. Now, he said we need each other now, which was back then, but we're going to need each other more so after a while. So we're going to have to recognize all of the people that came and all of the information that came along with it. And even though Marcus Garvey was a man with a nationality, he came here to a people who had no knowledge of who they were. He came to try to bring what he thought he could bring, including taking us back to Africa. He brought some pride to the people. He started newspapers. He started businesses. He started schools. And what else? Prophet Noble Ali founder did the same thing. Prophet Noble Ali reincarnated did the same thing. So we can see in that area of time, we had people in that era of time that were fighting for us. We're fighting to make us better individuals. We're fighting to taking us out of that mentality of being slaves and putting us back on a foundation of security. But why aren't we doing that right now? Why are we not still assisting one another and helping one another right now? Because that was back during that time. But now we're in 2026, centuries later, and we're still having a hard time with assisting one another. We're still having a very hard time with uplifting one another. We're still having a very hard time. He started schools. Schools were started. We have schools that are our own that started. We already know that our children should be in a European school system, yet we still, for some reason, want to leave them in that European school system. We want to continuously follow behind that European and look at all the history we have. So over the past couple of Real Moors talk, we talked about the Yakub experiment, and how the European came into place. And Taj did that for your audience. You all asked for that. So he was trying to let you know that this is not an individual that we want to follow. How their birth took place, where they came from, we still want to follow them. We talked about Prophet Noble Ali, founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and Prophet Noble Ali, reincarnated, who came to keep the movement going. We talked about them. We talked about all the things that went on during that time frame. Now we're talking about Marcus Garvey, who is another individual from that same time frame that came to try to uplift the people. And even though he didn't have all the answers, he used what he had to try to bring us back into a state of conscious thinking again. And still, where are we today with that? There are a lot of people that's Garveyite. A lot of people from Jamaica that say they're Garveyites. I hear what people are saying. He had a real impact on the Rastafarian movement. Marcus Garvey, you saw them wearing the red, black, and green for their beautiful locks. They were making caps for them. And the kufis, you saw the red, black, and green. Everybody started wearing it as a symbol of pride. Even with the whole Kwanzaa, with Karinga, he took that from the red, black, and green to pride, even the candles. As I still do my Kwanzaa, I put my candles up, that one black candle in the middle, We know we're not black. That's not what it stands. It stands for the dark complexion of the people. We know that we're not black. We know that, but black is made up of a lot of colors to get to the color black. So we know that black is not who we are. We know that black represents everything that's unclean, godliness. If you just want to get down to it, that black represents pale. I mean, that's the etymology of the whole entire word. And we know that that's not us. But Marcus Garvey came to teach us that we were Negroes, and Negro and black means the same thing. He didn't have the consciousness of knowing that at that time. But what about if that wasn't his job? What about if that was not his part? If he was the forerunner for the prophet, and he was here to get the people stirred up, then the prophet came and answered the question. He loosened the keys and freed the secrets. Because the prophet tell us that all this stuff we're learning, I hear a lot of people say, oh, took from this, took from that. He said, all the things that we're learning are old. Oh, the keys were loosened, and now the secrets are out and they're free. But at one time, this information was not privy to us. At one time, we wouldn't be able to talk about Marcus Garvey or Prophet Noble Jolly, excuse me. We wouldn't be able to talk about any of our historical leaders. But the keys are loosened now. The secrets are gone. There's no more secret. We're not a dirty little secret anymore. We're not a secret. We've had leaders who have come to show us how to get back on the right path. And now all we need to do is follow their lead. I know some were saying, oh, that was way back there over a century ago. Truth does not change or pass away. It doesn't matter how old and ancient it may be. It's not going to change. It's not going to pass away by our convenience. That's not going to happen. So we have to ask ourselves the question. Marcus Garvey did what he had to do. And he was a danger to the Europeans, because if he wasn't, would they have found him guilty of all these things that they made up? They still try. And look at this. Let's just look at this really quickly. Every time they want to get one of our leaders, get rid of them, they do the same thing. Lock them up, take them off the market, make false charges against them. Their playbook has never changed. Has never changed. They try to do the same thing to me, and that's a story for another time. These Europeans will make up anything, and what's the terrible part is we believe it. The terrible part is we second guess us because we believe what they're saying. And these people have never told the truth. The one thing they may not like us as individual people, but the one thing that they all have in common about that is they rather see us never getting ahead. So they may have differences with one another, but their differences is not us. They don't like us, and they're going to try to keep us down. And all our leaders, they're going to try to find something negative to say about all of our leaders. They make them all homosexuals. They make them all pedophiles. And we know who the pedophiles are. We know it's them. We know they're trying to lift right now the ban on the age of rape so they can continuously insult little boys. And we know that we're the targets. They want to take the manhood and womanhood away from us. When manhood and womanhood comes through us, not away from us. Moors. So I just want to I want to let everyone know this episode of Real Moors Talk was on Marcus Garvey. I do, my producer, okay, you see there was no more problems. So the producer is back in. But I had a few technical difficulties, but that comes with it. But this is Real Moors Talk. It's live. Whatever is going to happen is going to happen. You're going to see what you're going to see. Those things happen because it's real. This is what's happening. It's real time, real life. All right. But I do want to, before I leave again, I want to challenge everyone to make sure that you find a Marcus Garvey event this weekend coming. All right. I want to go back to show you that to support online schooling for Moorish children MC. Our school fundraiser is through the Rally Up. You can use that QRS code to donate there if you'd like to do that. And this helps you, for those who don't want to send directions to us, that you know we're sending it through an organization who modifies the donation, so that way people feel more confident in donating. All right, we also want to talk about on Saturday the 29th, and I'm so excited. We'll be live streaming from there. It'll be our very first live stream, an actual event other than the one we did for my daughter's video. And that is going to be on Saturday, August the 29th from 1 to 7 p.m. And listen, more, if you come into town just for that weekend to do that, please come in, connect with Brother Eric Thompson Bey. His phone number is, let me see if I can put it on a better screen where his phone number is on the actual flyer. Let me see if I can add that to the stage and take this one down. Support that event. All right, you can also go to circle7publishing.com to get my book on Marcus Garvey. It is in the link in the chat, or any books, and you can donate to our humanitarian organization at Daughters of Drew Ali. That's that cash app right there. I want to thank everyone who has donated for their donations, and all of those who have donated to our causes and send us donation and purchasing books. I really appreciate all of you so much. And for you all who continue to come out and support me every single Thursday on Real Moorish Talk. It is so great to see you all. Even if I don't have a guest on, you all come and see anyway. And sometimes we'll have guests and sometimes we will not. And I just want to let you all know that Taj will come in from time to time, but Taj, I am the hostess here, and Taj will come in from time to time and do a show. And we appreciate that. All right, we appreciate him coming in. I may have other guests too as well. But continue to support me in the things that I talk about here at Real Moorish Talk. I am here for each and every one of you, as well as myself. I've been your host, is Prime Minister National Grand Sheikh Durriyyah Bey, and you have been on an episode of Real Moorish Talk, and we've been talking about Marcus Mosiah Garvey Jr. He was a junior named after his father. It's been my absolute pleasure to be with you tonight here on Real Moorish Talk. And I want to say until next week, Moors, we won't be here before Marcus Garvey's event. So please find one again, find an event to go to, and then come back and talk to us about it. All right? Until next week, Moors, I want you to take care of yourselves and each other. We've been on Shadow Hour with Real Moorish Talk. All right. Happy born day, Marcus Garvey. Happy born day, Marcus Garvey, in the spirit realm. All right, Moors. Until next week, Real Moorish Talk.